Chevallier. In chapter 6, what is an instinct to kill? I have established that from the bigger picture, from external environment, an instinct to kill is in direct effect of intentional harm done to living beings that are in Christianity or Buddhism, and as well as in medicine, labeled as not allowed to kill, to afford and prolong life and regeneration, and to eliminate stress. And in a perspective of a person, knowledge and reason enables to recognize instinct of kill as causal and remediated by helping what is being harmed or inflicted injuries on to enable its survival, to no longer perceive that unknown of in origins instinct to collect, because once one is powerful, and that power is from freedom of being inflicted injuries and pain-free, and feels at ease, one does not have vengeance or instinct to kill unless same is being done to somebody else. And that is a fact, because it is not about forgetting, it is actually about survival of own, and killing and harming for past is killing and harming on own quota that reduces survival. And that is why forgiveness applies to only one thing: being non-forgiven for being non-loving to a person who did not love. And that is very good news for all of us, because it is convenient to all. Now, to answer further a little bit, that chapter 6 question, what it is about actually, where was I? What it is about a unlimited survival by killing. It has to be understood that there is no God, because God would fall apart if there was not one who observes. So if I do not name one a Buddha, there is no Buddha that exists. Like in chant of Prajna Paramita Sutra, there's nothing at all. So if I were the last evil creature of this universe and managed to destroy everything around, everything that has ever existed and exists, I would have no longer need for mouth, I would no longer have need for stomach, I would no longer have anything that would manifest to me that there is water, or that there is nourishment, or that there is joy. And I would no longer have also need for voice, but because there would be no one to speak to. And that is why I would become annihilated or collapse on self, which shrinkage comes from. And an example of shrinkage death is death to consumption of microorganisms that is at fault of ignorance of those as the smallest of ones. An example of that is yogurt that has, for instance, microorganisms. If we destroy those, we actually introduce to our system whatever we are being destroying, and we shrink, we become a little bit like a prune, and we collapse on ourselves because we actually became too detached from a supply to possess a body. And that is why here it is when I would like to mention one very important thing to improve churches and church life. First of all, in Christianity, apart from eternal life, it means all of persons, creatures that are alive, already born, are eternal as such, with body. And that is added to regeneration and deterioration. And so that is what Jesus meant, and that's what medicine means also. And there is no point of return unless one feels that one will fall apart, for instance in a crevice, and die, or is being hit by a truck and is dying. That is to say also there is no rewind button. There is only time and difference in zone. That is the whole rewind button, and that is important knowledge for especially group of targeted individuals that promotes that notion that, or also that Jesus will come and resurrect. No. And also life after death, eternal life, it is not life in limbo without body, because without demand and being perceived, also residues of energy that souls are disappear and die. Next, when it comes to reincarnation, chants about emptiness. Yes, that is true, that there is emptiness and that there is nothing to be perceived. When there is nothing to perceive it with, but also it is true the other way around. When there is nothing to be causing perception of seeking and perception to induce action, so everything is destroyed, there is no need for body, and body will shrink or collapse or expand in motionless and for instance become pulverized or burnt. And that is important to know. It is not a helpless chant, it is simply to state, if you do not kill, there is no ongoing death to you. If you actually kill, then death is happening to you. And if you cease to kill, there is no bad karma that will drag through generations, because unlike irreversible reaction, we die for good, even if residue of energy lingers around another form, being as a consumed form or a soul. It is actually someone else. If I was 100 years ago or 200 years ago another creature, I am no longer that creature. The same as a frog is not a cow in real time or in the past. And so that is important to remember, because it is very hopeful. What that chant says in Buddhism simply is that if there is no thirst, then I do not seek water because there is no water. So I do not suffer because there is none. If I have thirst, however, well, there is water. And if I seek for it and I feel joy, then it means that water is meant for me and others do not suffer if I consume it. It is a chant about reliability of senses, and in actually vacuum that is, when realized, and understanding why there is a purpose of existence and the purpose of coexisting that creates one above actually having mother and father. Which means we can answer a question: what was first, hen or an egg? We can answer it as there was first a hen and a rooster, and those hen and a rooster, they actually did not die because of having a chick. They did not die because of that if no one killed them or did not plan to kill. And that is why there was no first egg nor hen. First there was a rooster and a hen, and then there was an egg and a chick. You see, there is not a doubt about it, because time is real even if we do not have a clock. And aging is reversible even if we do nothing, if we reduce what we are being killing that stops to target us to disable procreation or killing, marking us as less attractive or evil. And there is no, in fact, irreversible non-regeneration or irreversible infertility if there are propitious conditions, which means everything is thriving and work is such that persons can regenerate and can have more children. Instances of having children worldwide are at in places like Italy and in China as well, where the oldest persons, such as Jie and a few other immortals, the same as Jesus, were registered last seen in late hundreds. And so some relates of Buddhism even count thousands of years, humans surviving that long alive, moving, speaking, not in a state of hibernation. And that means those persons were regenerating and were actually eating scarcely when there were times where killing would be necessary to feed self or others. And that is why we need to remember that and become more optimistic and hopeful about our survival and adjust those chants so that no longer there are cults that promote ideal love in bodiless form, because what a loss it is if two persons love one another yet are unable to have most wanted in the universe act that leads to a procreation. What loss it is when persons have such and separate, thinking that they are only fulfilled as if eggs for a soup, a quota. What loss it is when persons feel forced to stay together and do not feel like it is a choice, preferred one, from or above being single or being with somebody else. What cherished and wonderful it is to know such, that the body is part of soul being energy, simply nothing more. Inner energy emanating in constant correlation and in functionality existing because there are others around. This is an optimistic chapter despite the very stigmatized in the Bible number 6 associated with the great beast or the end of the world. The end of the world as we know it can be actively prevented by non-creating death and harm and non-remediation by death and harm of harm being created in the past that has already been regenerating and is no longer at risk. And when it is at risk, remediating by education, by mediation that are manly, because intellect also is a feature of a man, not only a female. And that we have to also remember works both ways. Females, we are articulate because we educate children often much more, having also less muscle mass and collecting less of goods and less of things while males are away, having more exposure to children face to face, and that is something to remember. Females, we can educate men, women, and also write books not only about love. There are many female scientists worldwide, and there are also many very smart and masculine in avoidance of killing while assuring safety men. And this is something to admire as capacity, and that is regardless of large muscle mass or looks or scary demeanor. Not all that looks like instinct to kill is necessarily voluntary, nor in cognition or demeanor of a person. As one monk once said to me, remember, mild-mannered dog is usually large, actually intends to kill, so never assume that based on skills or looks. And when you can, evade first, because it is not cowardice to do no harm to another, and avoidance of own harm is joy and benefits others who can relax while another one works and enjoys doing such, enabling that time. That is next, chapter 7. Animals, plants and humans. Do I die if I kill to eat? And do I have to have sex if I ate an offspring of another species to offer on and that child's death, wedding and love rituals? I also entitled it, How many camels for my bride? How many bulls for my groom? Is there a deadline of love? The answer to that is simple, and it can be summarized in here, perhaps in the part of next video. I cannot kill to survive, consumption of another life creates demand to kill and marks then in suffering of another or same species my demise and my degeneration, and the generation what is dearest to me, my loved ones and my children as well, being the second after closest family and spouses, loved and as well as friends. How many camels for my bride is how many camels did I provide water to and food so that they can rest? How many bulls? How many bulls did I save from death so that my groom can rest and have food together with the bulls? Is there a deadline of love?